Sound sync?
You don't have to clap.
In 3, 2, 1. Welcome, friends, to Soulnet Sessions on YouTube,
where we connect in community.
And we talk about soulful conversations that are affecting us individually and in our communities.
So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and let's dive in.
We are in studio live, and we are coming to you today to talk about the divine feminine and masculine energy. So we all have divine feminine and masculine energy. I didn't learn about it until I was much older, into my 40s, because I grew up in the Western culture, and we were never taught about energy bodies. We were taught about biology and different, like parts of our bodies, but not the energy body. So I feel like today we're gathering because there's so much going on in the world, and there's a lot of like really heightened kind of masculine energy out there. And then I think, Dayna, you can talk about the divine feminine energy of the universe, that the Venus energy that's really present right now. So it feels like there's a lot going on. And I just thought, if I had been younger listening to podcasts, I would have loved to hear from people that are working within the spaces with their energy bodies, which all three of us are. And we can all speak to our own energy body and our own experiences with it.
Yeah.
And maybe we can enlighten others to also be thinking in those terms, that what part of me is divinely feminine and what part of me is divinely masculine. So I was hoping that you guys would, share that.
I think we need to be really clear that this is not about gender, right?
Yeah,
These are about these dual energies that are within all of us. And if we go into the energy systems from an Ayurvedic perspective, we actually have two main nadis that run up the spinal column. And those are Ida and Pingala. And one is a masculine, one is a feminine. So these energy bodies run deep. And these two nadis also involve our chakra systems. Yep. So these are, again, energetic things, invisible to the eye, but definitely can show up in, physical things in our bodies if we're out of balance. So it really is the subtle stuff that we're talking about. And I think whenever we're talking about energy, even though it is, if we think about matter, it's tangible. You're here. I'm here. The microphone is here. The table is here. All the things, we can see them. But they're actually made up of energetic particles, as are our individual bodies. And we've got these different, we've talked in the pod before about Ayurveda and these balance of energies within us. Well, so it turns out the divine feminine energies are those energies of earth and water. They correlate to the Kapha dosha. And you think about Mother Earth. How did these names come to be? Gaia is the mother, which is earth. And then these more masculine qualities come into the way of like air and fire. And they tend to be very volatile. So that divine masculine, it has a really different energy. It's more volatile. It can be hot and burn you. Whereas those air and the water and the earth are like nurturing, right? So if we just kind of even think about, what does that feel like in me? I find this is a fascinating topic because I have spent a lot of my time between both the masculine and the feminine. As a single mother, the roles that I would take on were of both parents, right?
Parents, yep.
So my work as a coach is very masculine. I'm telling people what to do. I'm guiding them in that way.
Instructive and kind of
structured.
Structured.
And logical, which is the masculine
the
energy.
Science.
The
so
science.
Important, right? For our work and our, and being able to manage our lives and our, this is important, this part of us. And then the feminine side that we also embody, but in your case, it comes through in
So my nurturing side, so
Yeah.
very, and I'm a mother. My clients are also my family. I care for them. So that absolutely comes through. And I've had to learn over the years where the dance between the two is because we don't want to spend, especially like depending on what we've chosen. I'm a, cisgender woman. So I can spend time in those masculine energies, but in order to attract, the kind of partner that I want, I actually like someone that has a strong masculine so that I can settle into that feminine energy.
Like surrender into your feminine.
Yeah,
and as
the
your
receptacle,
friend,
right?
like as your friend, I've noticed you're very nurturing with your friends. Your feminine comes out with your friends.
Yeah.
And with your clients, although you may treat them as family, when you're actually in that position of educator and leader, your masculine in terms of your delivery comes through, and that structured training and the way
Authoritative.
the way you mentor.
Yeah.
The way you mentor your clients. So I totally feel you on that one, because when as a single parent, when I was a single parent before I was in my current relationship, and even still now, like financially, I'm the single parent for my kids. I notice my energy is different. It shifts. It shifts into like that kind of mentor leader place of like providing and thinking ahead and being proactive for resources.
Yeah, the
For the
planner.
family, and provider for the family.
Very masculine.
And to me, that doesn't even, it feels like a healthy masculine within me. And one of the gifts of midlife for me is I feel like I've been able to embrace both in me.
Yeah.
And Meg, you were speaking earlier about like, how I was sharing about my conditioning or the training I received. That kind of feels to me like the wounded feminine that I was modeled, and so I went through my own journey of healing that woundedness, the programming, the training, so to speak, and kind of like deciding for myself, well, what is my feminine? What is my masculine? And my masculine came more naturally than the feminine. It took me a little more time to feel into my natural feminine, which I really have fully embraced in my current relationship now. Feeling safe and received in my current relationship allowed that part of me to flower.
I'm so happy, for you, because I think the wounded feminine, that like looking back ancestrally, right? At like our mothers and, I think they, what's happened or what I'm noticing is that the feminine is always just been defined as the nurturer, the caregiver, the emotional one. And, that is all true.
Yeah.
But also that what is also true is that every woman has masculine energy as well. And every man has feminine energy as well. I just find that I guess I'm just more aware of noticing it in myself and healing from that wounded feminine, right, which came through like my mother line. And also embracing my masculine and just trying to practice being more boundaried, more structured, standing with my voice, leading with my heart, but also using my voice. So, that would be like my more masculine energy that was kind of like kept down for a long time. So, and I get resistant sometimes because I've always been considered and I was kind of imprinted and, and rightly so, like people just look at me or for years, it was just my femininity that they felt and saw. And that is true. But what I've come to learn and why I wanted to come today and hear your stories and share mine and hope that the listeners can think about their own energy bodies and, what may need some attention or what may need some practice.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important, we're all, mothers of sons. And I think we're raising boys that we're inviting them to embrace these feminine skills of listening, holding space for others. I know my son can do that quite beautifully, and I hope that's something he carries forward. And he's comfortable in that space. He's also a big, athlete and all these other things. But this doesn't, again, we're going beyond these physical structures and really diving deeper into what is underneath the surface and the subtleness of all of us.
It sounds like he's comfortable with both.
Yeah.
And that actually has him almost maybe rest in his masculine more comfortably, because there's not a part in him that he's afraid of. He's familiar with both, like in terms of these energies being primal in us. The main energy lines are masculine, feminine along the spine, yin and yang, right? Moon and sun, winter, summer, hot, cold, receptive, and what's the opposite of receptive?
Resistant.
The provider.
Providing,
providing. Receiver.
Receiving and providing. Receiving and providing. And it's such an ebb and flow. I'm curious for the both of you. I've noticed I probably had more healing in my wounded feminine than I did in my masculine. It felt like my father modeled a pretty healthy masculine to me. I did repair some stuff internally around avoidance with like the father wound I had that was not as deep as the mother wound that I had. So it feels like for me, I've done more work in healing my relationship with the feminine, with the divine feminine. I'm curious for the two of you, what you've noticed has been your journey.
It's so interesting. I actually do feel like I'm actively working on both of those pieces. I think the understanding the divine or the masculine that was modeled for me, as being, my parents raised two young girls, really capable, really independent. And that the downside to that was not being able to ask for help. And I saw the women, the feminine role of just being the caregiver and the provider in that way. And so I struggled a lot, actually. I'd say I wanted to be a homemaker too. There was a lot of me that really wanted that, yet I knew I was so much more independent. And I knew I had the ability to run a business and do all these things. But really what called me was to be that same role that my mother had. But that was not, I picked a partner who was not, I'd say, he was not my dad in his expression of masculinity, that he was not a good provider. So I had to be that too. So I started to wear both of those roles in my marriage. Right. And then, of course, we split up. And then I was like, so fortunately, I was fairly, comfortable in both of those. And I really leaned into my relationships that were more of an alpha male, but with a feminine understanding, because I am ruled by Mercury as a Gemini. And so if you can't communicate with me, well, you won't get the rest of me. So I needed that love language of actually being able to be heard and seen and received as I was. And that would allow me to absolutely blossom into that feminine aspect of myself. But I dated a lot of men that they didn't have enough of that to actually kind of to allow me, because I found it was really easy for me to slide into the masculine role again, because that was what I was, it was so on all of my work and life was what was very comfortable. So it's been a lot to actually just find the right partners, the right friendships, those things that like really allow me to be masculine when I need to be, and then be feminine. When,
that's such an interesting point, Dee, that you raised, because it's like, because then it's, not only are you practicing, and working with both those energies within you, but you are responding to external, your external world, right? So you've got your work, you've got your friends, you've got people in the community, you've got political, like all the media, all the things that are going on. And so what comes up, right? Like we all have like a dominant, we kind of lean, right? And so you've leaned into your masculine energy. And so you're having to like practice, or find people. It's like finding your tribe, like where you can lean into your divine feminine.
And be received.
And be received and be loved and
taught to be hyper
that is
independent.
such a good point.
Which is the masculine almost like response to the 50s of like the
Yes.
feminine kind of only being delegated to nurture only. And so these extreme responses produce extreme results.
God, they totally do. You're exactly right. That's exactly it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing too. Like, I feel like, so I would have, like, as I was saying, I would lean more into the feminine role.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I'm working on, again, finding ways to practice my more masculine approach to things.
Mhm.
And in that space, finding the people that can receive it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can receive it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's where
Mhm.
I really feel like that's where I'm at right now too.
Wow. Yeah.
I
It's
think,
interesting times.
and I think that one can be hard. So someone, again, who has been playing on both sides, that piece of, I remember going into conversations where my sensitive side was like rearing its head almost too much. Like they were, meant to be, I think it's probably nervous system dysregulation if I look back on these conversations or the timing of them as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But those times where we were meant to be more in the masculine, like a boardroom, it wasn't a boardroom, but that kind of a scenario.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you find that the emotions coming up
Yeah.
so close to the surface of that feminine rising. And
Yeah.
then, of course, and I've heard this from clients as well, that women in professional worlds, especially going through perimenopause and
Oh, my
menopause, and
goodness.
they're like,
Yeah.
they're, in the middle of this discussion. And then all of a sudden, we're welling up and we're in our feminine. Then we get labeled, of course, as being, oh, she's just sensitive or she's so
Crazy.
emotional or whatever those things are.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the hardest things that I've noticed about, like, can I be in my feminine? I can be comfortable with the tears, but can everybody else be comfortable with the tears? And can we find strength in those tears? And just because I'm showing emotion in a different way that is not about, angers or boundaries or those things, I can still have a conversation while I'm crying.
Yep.
Right.
And that speaks to dysregulation, what you just said, Dayna. When our masculine or feminine is dysregulated, the feminine may be more kind of like the moon, receptive, but when it's regulated, it can also regulate the emotions. But when it's dysregulated, the emotions take over and flood. And why is it like women are, classified, so to speak, as like over emotional, and men are classified as overly angry? Like those are the kind of dysregulated expression of the emotions. Men's emotions dysregulated show up, boom, initially as anger, and women sadness or weeping or quote unquote crazy. That's the label.
The fire in the water.
Yeah, the fire in the water.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's that dysregulation of the fire in the water.
Yeah.
So it's more about regulate. Both energies are emotional, but expressed differently and complementarily. Like they actually can complement each other. Something I notice with my partner is there'll be moments I'm more emotional, but because I'm Vata, I'm also in my head quite a bit. But that can also be regulated. Like I'm very analytical, but it's regulated more so these days. Whereas my partner is Kapha, and he's more like embodied in his body, grounded, and kind of more attuned sometimes to his emotions. When they surface in him, they're very natural. And
They're
so
probably less erratic too, or less less up and down. They're really just more steady.
Exactly.
Yep.
Steady and consistent. His emotions are very consistent. And so when we're regulated, his feminine actually is quite strong and my masculine is quite strong, but not in the sense like I don't show up, quote, traditionally masculine, but it just kind of works. And so the regulation can look really interesting in a relationship, expressed.
And that
uniquely.
balance, when it feels like, balance like that, you feel at ease.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're regulating.
That's
you're
right.
co-regulating.
You're co-regulating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
with ease.
with ease.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why I wanted to bring this topic up, because I was like, there is so much disease. There's so much disease and disease right now. And people like, just a lot of, like, I just feel like there's an uneasiness that's just like, it's almost like, the water, it's just like swirling. There's an uneasiness. So the idea of finding people and understanding our energy bodies and understanding the energy bodies of our partners and our children and our friends and our coworkers may help us to feel more at ease.
And understand what we need. I think that's the piece, is the remedy, right? So there's always a remedy. Wherever there's a problem, there's a remedy. And it's usually, and this is a simplistic explanation, but Ayurveda has really opened up so much simplicity in my life.
Oh, nice.
The remedy is usually in the opposite.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you can just think about that, like, and I think about this, if I want to open up my feminine, so let's say Dayna's in, sweats and sneakers all day at work, and when I go out with friends, I want to put on a dress. I want to bring in more of those feminine energies, or I want more of the feminine colors, or I want to be by the water, or I'm in nature. Those are those pieces, and we can apply this in our lives in so many ways, whether it's the partnership, or we can just balance that out in ourselves.
So true. And I think one of the other things I wanted to say too to that is that with like, I've noticed that with my husband is, like, he's in the very masculine energy at work and like provider and like just like worker and all the things. And then when he comes home, what works for us is that we have that balance. He allows me then to go into my more masculine space to do my work, and he comes home, and not every day, but like a few days a week, and he cooks. So then he's like nourishing and nurturing through the cooking. Like, I just feel like,
even the allowing that you mentioned, if he's allowing
like
you to be in this, that's a feminine allowing. Is feminine
the
being
allowing.
is allowing.
Like, I'm wondering if, like, I'm in a hetero relationship, right? But I'm just wondering, when we talk about those balancing those two energies, and we're both coming into our situations, sometimes with our masculine, sometimes with our feminine, just having that awareness.
Complementary opposites. It's also homeopathy is similar to Ayurvedic medicine. The healing is in seeking the opposite complementarily.
And even allergy medication now. You microdose on the one that's the problem, right?
That's true.
So I'm really curious for both of you, because you both shared kind of similar stories in your relationships. So would your partners describe it as like, so would Dario say, "Oh yeah, I'm settling into my feminine and my grounded self," while you're in your masculine? Would he actually use that word to describe himself?
He would. He would say grounded. He wouldn't say feminine, because that's too feminine for him to say, because he is a very masculine guy. But he would say grounded, and he would totally acknowledge that it's feminine energy.
Amazing.
Because he's pretty in touch with he knows that his strength is the kapha stability.
So he knows himself.
He knows himself, exactly.
And then he can show up for you in turn, and you guys complement. So what about your...
So my husband, I would say, it would also not say, he would not honor it as feminine, because he's also a very masculine man. So this is where we need to get to, people. We need to get to the place where the guys, like our sons, can actually acknowledge that they have masculine energy and feminine energy, right? Because I think, my husband, he would call it like his like loving, nurturing side. He would use other terms for it. And he knows that, he has a really great relationship with his mother, and I think I love her so much, because I think that she has so much, like, it's maybe a bit of her line, right? And so he has a lot of respect for her. And that respect is then shown into other women in his life. And so it's in his DNA, it's in his energy body, it's in his system, but it's also been modeled. But he still wouldn't say it. So I feel like it just needs to be said.
It's the conditioning. That's all.
It's the conditioning.
Yeah, which is
it's just such a good example that, we are here to change the condition. We're not here to change the world. Well, we kind of are.
We're trying but through ourselves, through our own exploration, right? I think that's why we all come together because we talk about this stuff and we try and make sense of it all. And
exactly.
And that's the contributory piece, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Dayna, you brought up a really great tip on recognizing like the distinctions. I'm curious for your other tips for like nurturing, nurturing either the feminine or masculine within, if we notice that there's a need or an unmet need.
So I think, so I think obviously fashion, outward expression is a really great way, and either in one or two of the others. I think it's easier, especially with the feminine side. I'd say the masculine side. I mean, anytime you're setting healthy boundaries, anytime you're being that, the person to have the conversation, to start the hard conversations, that feels very masculine to me.
True. Having the hard conversations.
That's the starter piece of it. And I think, that's also a really great place that we can bring in even posturing and empowering.
Yeah. And I would add too that the logic piece also, I think about the masculine energy, in my family members, and they're such logical thinkers. So it's a bit of a mind, really utilizing logic. And then but also the juxtaposition of the heart and the feeling and what it feels like, and, being able to be a bit vulnerable. So that kind of the logic and the vulnerability, I would kind of draw attention to those two things. Yeah. Yeah. So with that, SoulNet friends, we are going to wrap up this conversation. It was a bit all over the place, a bit wild, but that is the human experience. Being
the energetic,
the energetic
that's the
body.
Divine.
That's the divine. That's the divine. It's not always linear and logical. It can be all over the place at times.
It's got growth and entropy and chaos and order. All of it.
All
masculine,
of it.
feminine.
All of it. So we just invite you all, listeners, to think about that in your own life, in your own body. And really our hope is that for each one of us and for you, that, this is enlightening and has you thinking and being more aware of the energy that you're putting out and the energy that you are receiving.
And don't be afraid to dance between the two, because that really is what we end up doing in our existence here, is moving between these energies and our relationships and within ourselves.
So with that, we'll sign off live from the studio, from the SoulNet studio.
That's right. Thanks for Henry's for hosting us here at our little studio.
Yeah.
Thank you,
so
Henry's.
grateful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Henry.